All right, everyone. There's no way, absolutely no way possible that tonight's game between Georgia Tech and Clemson will come in any way close to what we've witnessed this weekend at places like Gainesville, Florida, or New Orleans, Louisiana last night, and others. Just can't see it. No way. Just can't happen. Welcome into the Voice of College Football, wrapping up a week one with you as we get you set for the finale of Labor Day weekend's college football weekend, and the very best, in some ways, the very best weekend of college football that we get, because we got the full gamut of 5 consecutive days: Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, before the NFL takes over the world. All right, Clemson, a 21.5-point favorite at Georgia Tech, although the game not played at Bobby Dodd Stadium in Atlanta on campus. Them playing the host role, Georgia Tech is, in an ACC conference game. A home game technically for Georgia Tech, but playing at the NFL stadium. So it doesn't make a whole lot of sense for me on behalf of Georgia Tech. Also, we understand after talking to the, yes, it was Jason Priester who was on last week from allclemson.com, who told us that Georgia Tech was against selling the upper deck. So we're going to see an empty upper deck, apparently, from what I understand, an empty upper deck at the stadium. I would hope that they would fill the lower bowl. But that was Georgia Tech seemingly being afraid that Clemson fans would invade Atlanta and make it a home game for Clemson. But they should probably just play this at Bobby Dodd Stadium and call it a day, and take their home and home series every other year and play it actually on campus where they've got a home field advantage. So Georgia Tech with home field advantage technically, but certainly will not have it tonight against Clemson. The other aspect of this game that I don't like for our big special Labor Day opening weekend of college football is that why are we playing a conference game that we can see later in the season? This game should be reserved for a non-conference spectacle, as it has been in the past. And as we see throughout the weekend with the likes of LSU and Florida State in particular, and others, for the past several years, the NFL stadium in Atlanta has been the site of the double header of sorts, the Saturday game and then a Monday night game. Last year was Miami and Alabama on Saturday, and then Ole Miss and Louisville, 2 non-conference games, SEC, ACC, playing on Saturday and Monday. Why didn't we do that again this year as we have in the past? A conference game, I don't like it. Don't like a conference game, especially since it's probably a mismatch of a conference game, although we thought the same thing going into last year's matchup, and Clemson needed a goal line stand to hold off Georgia Tech 14-8. So that was the real first indication that Clemson was going to struggle as much as they did at the quarterback position and throughout the offense in 2021. What will we see tonight? That is the big question. It's more about Clemson, of course, than Georgia Tech. None of us expect Georgia Tech to do anything this year. It's almost about, is Jeff Collins going to make it through the year? They shook up the coaching staff. He's got a new offensive coordinator in Chip Long, former Notre Dame offensive coordinator, heading up the Georgia Tech offense, and promising to bring more creativity to an offense that is without Jahmyr Gibbs, who transferred to Alabama, of course. Quarterback Jeff Sims is back in play for a third season at Georgia Tech, so he's got experience. And he's got a couple of incoming running backs from Buffalo, 1,000-yard rusher from Buffalo, and also Hassan Hall, who got little time as a running back at Louisville, but comes in from the Cardinals. So Georgia Tech and Clemson, but it's more about Clemson, of course. Again, the Georgia Tech side is, are they going to improve under Jeff Collins, or is this his fourth and final year and he's out the door? Because 9 wins in 3 years, awful display by Jeff Collins. The program, the personnel, the roster is just as unstable as it was when he took over, and apparently had to transition from the triple option offense and the recruiting that's centered around building that type of roster for the offense. And he has yet to, into a 4th season now, do anything of note. So Jeff Collins needs to win and needs to look respectable. We don't know what that is this season for Georgia Tech. I would think get to a bowl game, and he probably saves his job. Otherwise, he should be out. Again, this is more about Clemson, and we are broadcasting, I believe. Yes, we are. We are live on the Clemson channel as well. Welcome in, Clemson folks, on the Clemson channel. Keep in mind that we will have post-game right here at the Voice of College Football, Clemson, with Edward and with DeAndre. They will have your Clemson post-game coverage. So join us right after the game on the Clemson channel for, again, Clemson post-game right here at the Voice of College Football. Let me leave the link in the chat, and we'll get down to business here. What a weekend of college football. Love it, love it, love it. Thursday night, Friday, every night, every day, every night, all 4 days were phenomenal. Unless maybe you're an Oregon fan. Sorry, Ben. You know, I can't do 2 things at the same time. Let me leave the link in the live chat. So the link's in the live chat. Please join the show here at the Voice of College Football, whether you're joining us on the Clemson channel or here on the main channel. Yes, Ben, sorry. I actually saw somebody post a video. I didn't see who, don't really know who the individuals were, but it was in my Twitter feed or in my YouTube feed. Something about the bright spots of the Oregon performance against Georgia. And I thought, you know what? I tapped out of that game. I can't even really tell you what happened other than one of the Georgia defensive backs, the freshman, I can't think of his name, one of the great, highly touted freshmen 5 stars at cornerback. His first game, he made a ridiculous interception off of Bo Nix's pass that was slightly underthrown. It wasn't a horrible throw, but he made a remarkable, laid it out for the interception. And then, you know, just it was ridiculous. Those guys trying to keep up with the likes of Kendall Milton and Kenny McIntosh out of the backfield, both as runners and receivers. Yeah. So after, you know, Stetson Bennett made that one ridiculous play where he was trapped in the backfield when they were in the red zone, and he reversed and he dodged 3 guys, and then he got out of it and he found somebody wide open in the end zone. At that point, I thought, you know what? I'm out. I've got other games to track. Arkansas, Cincinnati looked like a much more attractive matchup to check out. I made a huge, there's always one game that I get through at the end of the weekend and think, you know, I knew better and I made a bad pick. There's always one like that. And that was the Georgia-Oregon game. I know not to go against myself when I've known something, when it's been confirmed to me and I am rock solid on something for an entire offseason. And then I get to the day of the game or the day before the game, whenever I made my picks on Patreon, search MarkRogersTV, because despite this clunker, really good picks this weekend. That I get to the day before the game, ready to make my picks, and I go against everything that I've been thinking for the last 8 months, which was Georgia is going to win this game like 42-10. That was one of the scores I had in my head for this Georgia-Oregon matchup, 42-10. Then I'm going through my predictions and I'm going pick by pick, and I'm looking at that 17.5 points thinking, that's a lot of points, and Oregon's good, and they might score a late touchdown and close the gap to 13, let's say. I knew better. That's all I've been talking about. You could pull up any one of these live streams for the past 8 months, and anytime Georgia and Oregon was brought up by anybody, I said, you know what? Let's keep going. It's going to be a blowout. It's not going to be close. I don't need to think about this game. Why are we talking about this game? Yes, it's this premier matchup that's got the national spotlight, but it's a waste of time, and it proved to be a waste of time. Now, did I think 49-3? I did not. But I was in that 42-10 range, which is pretty much the same. And I went against myself last minute. I should not do that. Yes, Firmus paradox. Stetson for Heisman. Why not? Why not? He should be a candidate for the Heisman Trophy. It's good to see Ori here in the chat. Ori, hope everything's going well. Hey, Mark, what are you thinking for the first rankings of this season? I got a feeling Georgia hops above Ohio State and don't think Notre Dame should drop below 7. Thoughts? Okay. Are we thinking about real rankings? Or are we talking about those clowns over at the AP or the Coaches Bowl? What are we doing here? And I know they're not all clowns. There are some reputable, highly intelligent professionals, knowledgeable, all those things. And of course, the coaches poll, we don't know who's voting. How many coaches are voting versus how many coaches are handing it to an assistant, probably not an assistant coach, but a sports information director versus the AP poll. I am the worst person in the world to ask what the AP or the coaches poll should look like, because I think both of them are, I'm going to fall short of calling them a joke, but they're just not valid. They're just not valid. Parts of them are, but they're invalid in so many ways that they're just useless. So you have to have some kind of perception coming into the season to be ranked. There will be teams that had better wins this past weekend, and all we've got to go on is one game that will not be ranked, that had better wins than teams that will be ranked. So it's all just a predetermined process, and then they just tweak them after that. And that's not how teams should be ranked. They should be ranked based on the resume. So based on the resume, I will produce, of course, my top 25 that actually makes sense. That is a direct byproduct of the insanity that goes on with the AP and the coaches poll. So sometime tomorrow morning, we will release our top 25 that actually makes sense. So you will be able to easily, if you're not familiar, I produce a top 25 ranking after all the games are played each and every week. And you can go directly, and week 1 is the perfect example because it's the easiest to determine. You can go directly to each team that I'm going to have ranked 1 through 25. And you will be able to see who they beat and why they are ranked at that position. Now, there has to be a determination of how good the teams are that they beat. We don't know that exactly. None of it's an exact science. All right. I've left the link in the live chat, so please join the show right here, the Voice of College Football, and we will lead you up to kickoff of Clemson and Georgia Tech. Web security, Mark, will you have Ohio State 1 or Georgia 1? They had the 2 best wins, right? Well, it goes by who did you beat? What was the performance? That's really what it comes down to right there. And if you lost, There may be teams in the top 25, in my top 25, that actually make sense, that lost. There probably will be. I'll have to look at it. I have not looked at anything as of yet, but wrong link, really. I grabbed the link right from the... There we go. Let me give it another shot. There's the link to join the show. Mark, the link takes you to the Clemson channel. Well, that's fine. We're live on both. So that is where the link goes. It doesn't matter if you join me on the Clemson channel or on the main channel. That's the only link I've got. So we are simulcasting to lead everybody up to the kickoff of Clemson and Georgia Tech, which is going to be at 7:30 or at 8, whichever it is. We will be here till then. All right. When you join the show and you're backstage, as we've got 2 people right now, would you please do me a favor and go to the private chat and leave your name and also where you're calling from or who you're a fan of. All right. Let's take our first call. And, we're going to go to Aiden first because, Nate, please let us know where you're calling from, who you root for. All right, Nate's on the line, or Aiden's on the line. How you doing tonight?
What's up, brother? How you been?
I'm good. What you got?
Man, that was a crazy game Sunday night.
Yeah, it was.
And I have a hot take for you, and I want to get your opinions on this.
A hot take. Okay.
I think LSU is a 6-win team max from that offense.
That's a hot take. All right.
Yesterday, especially if that Keyshawn Booty, as Uncle Lou calls him, is indeed transferring.
Who calls him that? Everybody calls him that. That's his name. Booty. That's his name.
It's actually pronounced Booty, but
no, it's not. No, I know why you think that because all of us have been calling him that for like 3 years. But yeah, he made it known weeks ago that he wanted to be called Booty. He did. So that's how he pronounces his name. We all just assumed it was
I was just not impressed with the Jaden Daniels performance.
Yeah.
Yesterday, and I've been looking at their schedule. Like,
I actually was impressed with his
performance. At least I looked at LSU.
Why were you not impressed with his performance?
And I'm like, where are the wins?
Why were you not impressed with Jaden Daniels' performance? What did not impress you?
Well, I think the first half throwing the ball, he did not impress me.
Okay. I don't know what game you were watching. I was pretty impressed with him. Number one, he had no running back support. They have absolutely no running backs carrying the football. The entire offense is on his back. So that's one issue that other quarterbacks generally don't have to deal with. So Jaden Daniels is never going to confuse anybody for Peyton Manning. He's not a precision passer, but he's throwing the ball to guys. That's what I saw. And again, maybe he didn't get off to the best start, but he was breaking contain. He's running for huge amounts of yardage. He's avoiding sacks. They got pressure in on him consistently. I thought he played a great game. You know, he can only throw so many passes that hit guys in the helmet or between the numbers. You know, he would have thrown a touchdown pass if your guy Booty would have caught the ball and been looking at the football. He had a touchdown pass. The ball went right past his elbow.
He probably would have thrown 2 if he caught the ball.
Yeah, and he threw a couple more.
One he just flat out dropped, and the other he didn't even look.
Yes. So anyway, not to jump all over your analysis there, but I thought Jaden Daniels was the least of LSU's problems. But they lost the game, and he's the quarterback. So
yeah, maybe it was just me, but I thought Jay Daniels did pretty good running the ball. But when it came to throwing the ball, and obviously Booty dropping 3 passes didn't help. I just didn't think I thought he was a little erratic at times. But
yeah.
And I mean,
You still with us, Aiden?
But yeah, I'm still with you.
Okay.
But I mean, the bigger issue for LSU is that damn special teams.
Yes.
I mean, they got to get that figured out, because I thought that was the Nebraska special teams that my mother was watching over the past 5 years. Watching LSU special teams yesterday.
Is your mother a big Nebraska fan that watches all the Nebraska games?
Yes, she is.
Okay.
But yeah, I thought I saw Nebraska special teams watching LSU yesterday.
All right, Aiden. Anything else, sir?
I think Clemson's covering that 24-point spread that it is now.
Ooh, it's just because 24.
Yeah, it's at 24 now.
Okay, I'm glad I made my prediction at 21.5.
Well, just because I feel like if Clemson is as good as we think they are, they should blow Georgia Tech out by 30. And second of all, I don't think that DJ, I think DJ's going to be vastly better than what he was last year.
Okay.
And if he is, I mean, everything else is there. The defense, the running backs. I like Nagata and Collins at the wide receiver position.
Well, don't automatically think that Clemson's wide receivers are going to play well. They did for 10 years, but last year they were just about as lousy as DJ was. They were bad.
I mean, they were bad.
But gets all the blame.
But at least I like 2 of those guys.
But the receivers were bad, and the pass protection was bad too for Clemson. So all they had going for them on the offensive side was stud running backs.
Even if those wide receivers are bad, I think Clemson having a good quarterback can kind of hide that a little bit.
Well, sure, it goes hand in hand, but unless you actually hand the ball to the guys, if they can't catch, they can't catch. And last year they couldn't catch. They didn't fight for anything.
Yeah, but
I'm just telling you based on watching the games. I know that the narrative is that DJ's awful and he's the entire problem, but that's not the truth.
I'm not saying he is the entire problem, but 9 touchdowns and 10 receptions or whatever he had, it was something.
Oh, that's unacceptable. Absolutely. And he's mostly responsible for that. I'm just letting you know what I watched Clemson plenty last year. I'm telling you that the pass protection was pretty bad, not like atrocious, but below standard. And the wide receiver play was the worst I can remember seeing at Clemson by far. And it was awful.
And one more thing before I go.
And so that helps produce the 9 touchdowns and the 10 picks. Like if the guys caught the ball, maybe he'd have like 15 touchdowns. Still not a good season, but yes, sir. One more thing.
I think FSU can win 9, maybe 10 games.
Okay. Did you think that before they played LSU?
No, I did not.
Okay.
But I think
I'm just curious. I'm not.
But I think partially because I didn't think Jordan Travis was a good quarterback, but with that Jordan Travis I saw today and those wide receivers and those running backs they have, I think that offense can be good, and I think Jared Burst, that transfer defensive lineman, is finally coming on.
Aiden, let me just tell you one thing, one cautionary tale before I let you go. Move on to our next call. Just keep this in mind, okay? It's called Overreaction Monday. Everything you just said about LSU made it sound like they're the worst team in the world. And everything you just said about Florida State, like them winning 10 games, going 10-2, there was that much difference between those two teams last night. That much difference. Okay.
I mean, hey, maybe
Don't
maybe
be
that is
surprised
just
if you see a different LSU version in a week or two and you see a different Florida State. We're still figuring these teams out. That was one example right there. That was just one example we could see, just one sample of play. Aiden, appreciate you being here.
all right. See you, brother.
All right. Let's tee it up with J-Dub. J-Dub, what's going on?
It comes down to a blocked extra point. I don't think you can take too much praise or heap too much damnation in that kind of a game.
That's what I was trying to tell him.
I think, to me, observing from the outside and noting that this was the 13th game in a row in which LSU has trailed at the half and not won, that it appears, beginning in 2020, continuing on into 2021, hopefully for LSU it's not the case, but it appears that what we have is a very talented team of individuals who don't all seem to be driving the bus at the same direction at the same time. Now, maybe that'll be Brian Kelly's biggest test, will be to come in and to get everybody pointing in the right direction. But right now, there might be a few too many Chiefs and not enough Braves. That might be LSU's problem right now. But it's certainly not a lack of talent. I mean, obviously the talent is there, but they make mental mistakes. It just doesn't look like there's a lot of cohesion.
I agree on all points. And this Keyshawn Booty, whatever you want to call him, Booty. He's an extremely talented receiver. Our LSU guy would say that he's the best wide receiver in the country. He's not the best wide receiver in the country. We know that. Anyway, he's really good. He was lost last night. Like he was out to lunch, mentally was checked out, just not there. And then we understand during our post game last night that somebody let us know, a number of people, that he took like all of his LSU related stuff off of his Twitter. So I don't know if he's pouting or he's going to leave the team or what he's going to do. But if I'm Brian Kelly, you got to handle these athletes in some. I would be pretty balanced in regards to being Mr. Hard-ass 1950s head coach. I would not be that guy, but also at the same time, I would hold guys accountable. And if he didn't want to play for LSU anymore, I'd say, we'll see ya. Have, good luck.
Yeah,
but we expect you to try when you're on the field. We expect you to finish your routes. We expect you to catch the ball because you're supposed to be, you tell us, the best wide receiver in the country. So catch the ball.
Yeah, if you're going to be a prima donna, show us that you can fill the role first. Now, I'm calling because I would, I actually would like the chat, everybody listening, and you yourself, Mark, to, if you're the kind of person that does it, to light a little votive candle for me, because I'm going to be on the sidelines Saturday at that hotbed of offensive explosive Kinnick Stadium, and I'm curious. Is Iowa going to turn into Appalachian State against Iowa State? Is Mark Campbell going to finally get his first win against Kirk Ferentz after going 0-5? All I know is that I'm glad I wasn't there Saturday, and hopefully this Saturday, as much as I'd like to see Iowa State win the game, I hope to God I don't see Iowa's offense perform at the level they performed at Saturday.
Well, I made a statement going into this season that since Iowa was ranked 121st in offense last year, that just by simply running off tackle and throwing basic play action passes, that there's no way that they could be one of the 10 worst offenses in America again this year. It's just a statistical anomaly that they certainly could not be that bad. But then what did they do in game one? They hit an all-time low. So I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah. It's mind-boggling. It really is. I wanted to ask you if you were aware that Michigan has already won the Super Bowl. They've not only won the college football title, but if you listen to their fan base, they've gone on into the pros and won the Super Bowl. I mean, I don't know where all these Michigan people are getting worked up over. You beat Colorado State 51-0. Congratulations. You should have beat them. Miami should have thumped Bethune-Cookman. Alabama should have thumped Utah State. The most impressive win to me the entire weekend was Georgia.
Absolutely. It's not even close.
Yeah, and as an Alabama fan, I wanted to puke. I was like, no, do not do this. and yet they look fantastic in every aspect of the game. And I think it kind of got lost. I can't believe I'm on here defending Georgia, but I think it kind of got lost in all the other crazy outcomes and crazy results and the general excitement of week one that, oh my God, the champions look pretty darn good.
Yeah. J-Dub, I think that's because there's a difference between being excited about a game and impressed with an outcome and impressed with the game and being entertained versus being impressed with a team. And people generally can't separate that. So because the game was fun, it was exciting, they dismiss all the flaws of the team that won. And they're great. Just because the game was exciting doesn't mean that they're a perfect football team. And because the team that was pretty much just as bad as they were, and I'm not saying LSU and Florida State are bad. I'm saying they're just flawed teams that have talent. They're just sketchy hit or miss teams. They're in that range right now. They've got talent on the roster, but they're flawed, and they're going to play that kind of game. So just trying to point out to the previous caller, we can't just say, oh, suddenly Florida State's this amazing team and LSU is a dumpster fire. No, there was a missed extra point that separated these two teams last night.
Right. And those are two, probably 7 and 5, that ballpark.
Yeah.
Either one of those teams, if they're playing Alabama, Ohio State, Georgia, and they're playing like they played last night, they're getting blown off the field.
Yeah.
I mean, so yeah, two B-level teams played each other, and they played each other tight. Well, they should. They're the same two teams.
Yeah, some of the best and most exciting games of any college football weekend are amongst not good teams. Like those, the best matchups don't always produce the best games. We saw North Carolina and Appalachian State. If you just want to be entertained, that's a phenomenal game. But neither one of those teams are going to do much of anything significant this year.
Right. And oftentimes people get trapped into thinking, well, you've got 1 versus 2, or you've got 3 versus 5, or whatever, and you're automatically going to get a barn burner. Well, look at the history of the playoff. That's not usually the case. Usually it's a blowout. One team just makes a move, and these teams are good enough at that level that if you make a mistake against them, you will pay, and all of a sudden you're down 2 scores, and you can't get caught back up again. So it's not always that you're going to get these great, that 1 versus 2 is going to be 27-24. 1 versus 2 is just as often 42-20 as it is 27-24.
Okay, J-Dub, anything else tonight for us?
Well, we just got to put the sticker up because you know what's coming. That's the Amazon link time, kids. No coy play in, no cute to it. Just straight up, no nonsense. There it is. You know the works. You already shop Amazon. We don't have to explain it to you. Use the link, figure it out. Don't cost you anything. Help Mark out.
Thanks, J-Dub.
Thanks, Mark. All right, we'll talk later.
All right, let's get to a super chat before our next call. And there it is. I had it there. I had it. There we go, Mike. Brian Kelly and LSU are never going to be a thing. You might be right. I would tend to disagree, but we'll see, depending on what your definition of a thing is. I don't know what that means, but people need to stop. My family. I see what you did there. My family. Yes, Brian Kelly. There he is. All right. So that's gonna haunt him forever if he doesn't win. If he wins, hey, it's gonna be forgotten. But if he doesn't, there you go. All right. Who do we have on the top shelf? We should keep the winners on the top shelf. Of course, Clemson's playing tonight. We don't have a Georgia Tech helmet. Then we got Florida State with a huge win and most recent win. And of course, Florida with a stellar game against Utah, one of the entertaining games of the weekend too. And I will remind everyone that we've got a Patreon. You get my picks there. Search MarkRogersTV on Patreon. You get the Discord link. You can talk college football 24/7, 365. And my record would have been even better had Cam Rising understood that he didn't need to throw that pass in the end zone with double coverage right there. All right, Hunter, how you doing tonight? Hunter, are you with us? A lot of people waiting, so we're going to be quick here with the hook. Going once, going twice. Hunter. Okay. Next up, David Greenshield. David, how you doing?
Excellent, Mark. Always a pleasure to talk college football with the man that gives college football its voice, the great Mark Rogers. What a great week one. Very interesting, I must say. Wouldn't you?
I do believe it's very entertaining and interesting, and I will let you take it from there in whatever direction you want.
Well, I've got a few directions I'd like to take it. Obviously, I'm going to start in Columbus with what was supposed to be, the marquee matchup of the week. You know what? I listened a little bit to your after game show and after the game, and I am not one of those Ohio State fans. Obviously, I think I heard it a little bit more from other fan bases that, why aren't we dropping 50, 60 points on Notre Dame? You were way out in front of this, I have to admit, Mark. I was a little bit more optimistic we might cover 17.5. I don't think you were very optimistic about that. To be fair, you were on that early.
I picked them to lose.
What?
It crossed my mind to pick Ohio State to lose that game.
Are you serious?
It crossed my mind.
So
I would
why
not
is
have been
that?
surprised if they lost that game.
Really?
I was not surprised at what we were witnessing in the first half. No, I was not surprised. If you listened to me the entire offseason, I was like,
wow.
Yes, Ohio State's a better team. Yes, they were playing at home, all those things. But man, I did not have to think twice about 17. And I wasn't thinking when the line opened at whatever 14. I picked them to win by 10. I thought it was going to be I thought it was just going to be a higher scoring version of what it was, about 10 points more on each side.
I think everybody did. I had it, 42-24, and I was willing to concede a game for 3 quarters. Like, I could have seen it being 28-21, 28-24 going into the fourth, and then the Buckeyes put up a couple of big plays or put together a couple of good drives and then, pull away, obviously. That's kind of how I saw it. But here's the thing. Let me make up a couple of points about the game and the way the game went. First of all, kind of watching Notre Dame's offense, and I am going to give some credit to our defense. Number one, I think it's fair to say, as an Ohio State fan, you should be optimistic that this defense is going to be much better than it was a year ago, and it's not even close. It was great to see the D-line play well. It was great to see really good linebacker play for the first time in a while. I think the safeties are going to be very good. I think the corners are solid, although we're not going to know that until they play better wide receivers. I will say this. I think Notre Dame was trying to kind of muck up the game a little bit, throw short passes, quarterback run, things like that, lean on their offensive line. I get that. But I just think that and to get to the offense, because I do want to get to that, I just have to say I'm optimistic about this defense going forward, because I see finally some guys that are playmakers, some guys that can get into the backfield, make plays, pressure the quarterback. The D-line looked impressive for the first time in a while. And I think Ohio State fans have right to be optimistic about the defense going forward. Wouldn't you say? I mean, that's a fair statement, right, Mark?
Absolutely. I take positives out of this game. No, not across the board. There are concerns.
Yeah.
We don't have to address those right this second, but I took more positives out of this game. I thought it turned into the type of game that Ohio State proved something. Had they had the type game that they had, let's say, against Michigan State or Purdue last year, where they went up 21-0 like that, and the defense was always in a position where, okay, we've got a huge lead. Our offense is scoring. We're on cruise control and we win 52-24. Sure, that was going to be a really impressive win for a lot of different reasons against a top 10 or 12 team in the country. But to win in the fashion that they did, I took much more away from that game. Having to ram the ball down their throats with Mayan Williams in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
And that defense pitching a shutout in the second half.
Well, I mean, not having Jackson Smith and Jigba,
yes,
and then probably their fourth receiver, which is Fleming, was huge. So you're down your best receiver and probably your fourth best receiver. And, Stroud was off. I'll admit that. He was off on some throws. Now, some of that credit's got to be given to Notre Dame. There's a line a football coach uses all the time. Sometimes we just don't give our opponents enough credit. And there was not a lot of separation down the field between our receivers and their defensive backs. I will give them credit. I will say this. And, Dace talked about this on a podcast, and, Greg McElroy indicated this, that does Ohio State lack the physicality they need to win, which is the ability to run for tough yards when they needed it. And you're absolutely right. I was impressed with the offensive line and Mayan Williams on that last drive. I got to ask this question, though. Two questions, Mark. Number one, does Ryan Day get a little too pass happy and not mixing in enough run plays? And number two, how do you see the carry distribution going between Williams and Henderson maybe going forward for Ohio State? Maybe two topics for Buckeye Talk, by the way.
Yeah, two good ones. I'm sure we'll hit on those. I raised the first one a number of times during the offseason. I do believe that Ryan Day gets too pass happy, but he's been listening to critics for 8 months say that this team's not tough enough. And a lot of that's on the defensive side, but a lot of that was offensive line and running game between the tackles. So I think that last drive, or a couple last drives, were part of the mentality that we've got to be tougher. And Ryan Day's talked about that.
Right.
That the team has to be tougher. So I think he's, he will always be a pass first guy and an offensive. Most offensive guys are pass first guys.
Right.
And that's okay. But I think he showed us something in his play calling. I think they showed us something in their execution, and he showed us something in allowing the running game to be the thing.
How do you see that Williams-Henderson dynamic maybe playing forward, Mark?
So they finished, I think, at 18-14, I believe.
I think it was 15-14, actually.
15-14. I wouldn't have said this a week ago, but I think Mayan Williams is earning carries. Travion Henderson's going to hit the home runs. He's going to take it to the outside. Mayan Williams may be a little bit more what they need more often. And it's not that he's not an athlete. I think we tend to categorize guys, and obviously he's got the bowling ball nickname, but he's a great athlete too.
Right.
I think it's going to be, I would have told you 75-25 in August, but I would
Right.
tell you now 60-40.
Zach Smith on his podcast went as far as to say Mayan's the better of the two running backs.
Okay. Well,
I mean, I don't know. I might not be willing to go there, but I think you're right. I think it's a lot closer to 50-50. Hey, want to get to the other games here real quick if we can, Mark. Last night, just real quick, did Mike Norvell, did the LSU special teams help Mike Norvell out in a big time way, or what?
Word. If Mike Norvell loses that game and blows it the way that they were about to blow it with a 99-yard drive after pitching the football inside the 2-yard line, I don't know that he could have recovered from that. Wow.
That's a bad loss. Yeah, especially all he has to do is either run a quarterback sneak, or even if he has the quarterback take a knee, the game's over. The game's over.
I know.
You know what his proof is? Some of these coaches get too cute, too cool for school sometimes, and just forget about clock management and the basics of football, sometimes proving that more games are lost than they are won.
There were a few times late in that game, especially during all that time we had to mull over the out of bounds play with the LSU tight end, Mason Taylor, in bounds or out of bounds, that whole thing. And I am not the guy that reads facial expressions or anything. I am not that guy, but I'm starting to become that guy a little bit, because I've made these statements recently a little bit by looking at guys like Scott Frost during Big Ten Media Days and that sort of thing, where I've started to play that up a little bit. And I'm looking at Mike Norvell, and it's just, he looks exasperated, like a little shell shocked, a little like deer in the headlights, like, what did I do? What did I screw up? Where they had a huddle where he let Adam Fuller, and I understand it was a strategy thing. Defensive coordinator Adam Fuller's in there, but Norvell was away from the huddle, and he was just kind of like off in space. Like, what happened here? Is my career going to be over if they convert here?
Right. Well, you could see how relieved he was, once they got him off the hook, the special teams blocking that kick. He may have something with that quarterback too, Mark. Maybe going forward.
He's getting so much better.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I want to get to the Pac-10, by the way. Is it, one program declining? Did Rising just blow that pass, by the way? I was watching Ohio State, Notre Dame, or was that just a great play by the defensive back, or was that just a terrible decision?
Okay, I would love to watch that play one more time, but
the
one angle that they had, but was probably shot a little bit behind the offense, was the tight ends going down on whether he cut and slipped or whatever happened, or he got held and pushed down. He's practically on his rear end, and there's two Florida linebackers right in his path. So even if Cam Rising didn't see one of them, which I gotta think he didn't see one of them, it's still in that situation when you've got a field goal in your back pocket and it's only second down, you're playing with house money. You got to throw to the sure thing. Like, that was this is a bad decision.
Yeah, and I had Utah. I didn't get my playoff picks in when we talked, but they were one of my playoff teams. I mean, you too. You put your hand on that stove.
I did. I couldn't even believe I picked Utah to go to the playoffs. But even when I did it, I thought, this isn't like me. I don't think they're one of the best teams, but I thought they had a path.
Yeah, and especially I'm thinking, although Florida may have something with Richardson at quarterback, maybe Mullen at least left the new coach a quarterback he can work with.
Oh, yeah, he's dynamic. He would have made Steph Curry proud with that crazy fake. Did you see him?
Oh, I did see a little replay of that, yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, I wanted. By the way, USC on the rise, Utah on the decline. Are you? Still. I mean, it's Rice, I guess, but could Riley have them?
Well, USC's on the rise. There's no doubt about that. Are they better than Utah? I'm not ready to say that. I picked 4 teams to tie for first place in the Pac-12.
Wow, I did not see the Mark Rogers Pac-12 prediction, so I would not
4
have.
teams at 7-2.
Jeez, Well, I mean, you're not the only. You and me aren't the only ones that picked Utah to make the playoff. They were like a trendy, playoff pick. To be fair, a lot of people thought that Rose Bowl performance. They had the quarterback back. They had back a pretty good tailback, and Thomas, who I think is going to be a good player. But I mean, I think USC. I think Caleb Williams. You know what? Riley's going to be able to get offensive talent out there in California. The two best quarterbacks coming back this year were from California, Young and Stroud. So he's going to be able to find offensive talent there. It's will Alex Grinch be able to build a defense out there is going to be the question. That's simple. I don't know. Well, as always, a great week one of college football. Hey, last thing, how'd you do on picks? Did you do better than your buddy Steve Merrill, or what was the final verdict?
12-8 against the spread, and I'm kicking myself because of Cam Rising screwing me. Plus, the entire offseason, Dave. I don't know why I went against myself at the last second. The entire offseason, I've been preaching how Georgia was just going to lay to waste Oregon, kill them.
Yeah.
But I looked at that 17.5 and I just grabbed it at the last minute.
Yeah. Easily the best performance of the weekend. Although Bo Nix is terrible and continues to be terrible. I just have to say that. But Georgia's just that good, though, too.
Yeah.
A pleasure, Mark. You take care of yourself.
Thanks, David. I appreciate it. Oh, let's we'll keep Tony in here, but I hate with the old double switch there when the caller and myself click the same button at the same time. That's the graphics impact that we have. Tony, how you doing? Oh, I believe you're muted.
I'm muted. Sorry about that, guys.
There you are.
Doing great. How are you?
Good to see you.
Good to see you. Hey, guys, I just wanted to reach out because we've got something coming up this week. You guys know that we do our Pac-12 chat show live, but there's something that we actually need the viewers' help with as we get ready for this week. And so it's like I said, I know a lot of you guys know that we do the show. So this is going to be our week 2 show. It was a big hit last week, but we're trying to get a special guest, and we could really use your help from the audience. And that is, we are trying to bring on the Stanford Tree. He's actually a really cool kid named Jordan. He's an absolute riot. And so we were wondering if you guys that are in the chat, in the audience, could go on and use Twitter, use Instagram, try to convince the Stanford Tree, and it's the Stanford Tree, to join us. I'll put the link in the chat right now. Mark, I know you saw the link, but if we can get him on the show, it'd be a lot of fun.
I think it would be effective, and it would be best if we all tried to do this right now. I think we could all jump online. Obviously, everybody's online. Jump on over to Twitter, because most of us are going to forget. I've already done this a couple times, but I'm going to do it again. I've already pounded my fist and thrown up exclamation marks and said to have the Stanford Tree on the show would be phenomenal. We need the tree on the show. But to get everybody else on board,
and that's actually him in the gray right there. So that's who we're trying to get to join us to talk USC Stanford. We've got Trojans, we've got Ducks, we've got Bears, we've got Dogs, we've got Beavers, we've got everybody else for the Pac show, but we need a tree. And so we figured rather than just get any tree, let's get the Stanford Tree. So if you guys could do that, we would really appreciate it. It'd be a lot of fun. And then on Wednesday night at 10:30 Eastern, 7:30 Pacific, we will hopefully have, if we can get him, the Stanford Tree.
Tony, we've got 176 people online right now. 276. If we could get everybody on Twitter, and I realize there's a few people out there, you're not on Twitter. That's fine. Everybody that's on Twitter, go to Tony's post. So what would you recommend to be the quickest way to get there?
I put it in the chat, actually.
Okay.
So it's right there. It should be right there. I'll put it one more time in the chat. There we go. It's in the chat right there, guys. So you can just see, I just put it in the chat. You can follow the link, and it says we need help. And yeah, just give that a reply. Say something like, Tree, come join us, or Tree, we need you on the show. It'd be a lot of fun. I think you guys, by the way, this kid who actually is the Tree is created a multi-million-dollar esports company while in high school. Really, really smart, really cool, actually good guy, and it'd be great to have him. And I'll tell you, Ben, I do fear the Tree because I think Stanford's got a great run offense. They're, real smart folks. Their offensive coordinator, by the way, is the quarterback who beat USC in that famous 41-point underdog comeback win. So it's going to be it'll be quite a game, and we're looking forward to it. But we need the tree to help us preview it. So we really appreciate anything you guys can do to help convince him to come.
All right, folks. I've done my part. I've retweeted. I've replied. Also had a quote tweet as well. So I will do that again. But everybody follow Tony's link there on Twitter. Get the Stanford tree on the show. That will be phenomenal.
Thanks, guys. Hey, Mark, I don't want to take you guys away. It's going to be a great game tonight. What an epic game we had last night. I love we got our 5th straight day of football. It's going to be a good one.
Thanks, Tony.
Thanks. See you later.
Appreciate it. So once again, Tony co-hosts our live coverage with the Pac-12 chat show. That's on Wednesday nights at 10:30 Eastern, 7:30 Eastern time, 7:30 Pacific time, 10:30 Eastern time on a Wednesday night, and also the USC postgame as well. So join Tony, Tim, Rick is there, and again, a cast of thousands on the Pac-12 show on Wednesday, the USC show obviously after the ball game on Saturday. And that's the primetime game on ABC, primetime Eastern time, 4:30 out on the West Coast, Stanford, USC. Yeah, to get the Stanford tree on, yes, let's make that happen. All right, let's keep talking college football. We got Christopher on the line. Chris, how you doing?
Fine. How are you?
I am doing just fine. What's going on tonight?
Oh, nothing. I was going to ask you, I guess, I know there was I guess some people are upset with the way the South Dakota State game against Iowa. I didn't catch it, but I'm a little confused. South Dakota State, I think they're supposed to be one of the better FCS programs, aren't they? I think they're usually quite up, in terms of their they're not too far from the top, I guess, is what
They went to the semifinals last year.
Did they?
Yes.
And I think they actually might have even played in one championship game too, didn't they? Or am I wrong about that?
I don't watch the FCS. I don't know about that.
I don't know if they did either. I just remember, I think it was the year that I thought maybe North Dakota State beat them in a title game, but maybe that wasn't them. Because there's another South Dakota team, I think. But and I'm not trying to, sometimes it kind of sounds like I'm trying to push an agenda or something, like I'm trying to put the FCS up for the FBS. I know they're not, but I don't know that Iowa, I mean, maybe they didn't, they probably weren't running on all cylinders, but if they beat that team, I mean, that's not a bad team to beat. I'm not quite sure I understand why there's like an uproar about it, but of course I'm not I'm not affiliated with the Iowa Hawkeye team. Maybe if I was, maybe I'd feel differently about it, but I know one season, it's been some time ago, but when Dan Hawkins, I think, actually first became the coach at Colorado, the first team they played, I think, was Montana State, and they lost to Montana State. And then I think Colorado had to go to Georgia after that, and I think they made some changes. They put in this quarterback named Bernard Jackson. I don't know if you remember that or not.
Yep.
And they didn't win, unfortunately, but I think Georgia had to put in Cox. I don't know if you remember Cox, but anyway, he rallied Georgia to beat Colorado, and Colorado's offensive coordinator, I think later, I can't think of his name, but he actually went to Oregon. Not after that game, but that's who the offensive coordinator for Colorado at the time. This is like I don't know how many years ago. This has been some time ago, 2000, whatever year that Hawkins was hired, but they had to shake things up is what Colorado had to do to get things, and they weren't that good that year, I don't think, but I guess what I'm trying to get at is, one game doesn't define a team. I don't know why people get so, I guess, mad, if one game, I mean, I'm sure it's disappointing.
Well,
but,
Chris, this is easy to explain. You're comparing the Iowa situation to a first game head coach at Colorado 20 years ago, who was unsuccessful and struggled against an FCS opponent his first game. And Iowa, this is Iowa that fields top 15 to 20 teams in the nation most years, something in that range. Okay. This has not been going on. This is not a first-time thing for Iowa. Iowa had the 121st ranked offense in the country last year. They had one of the 10 worst offenses in the country. The last time, Chris, that Iowa had a top 50 offense. We're not talking about a great offense. Top 50 offense, a functional offense, was in 2006. The offense at Iowa has been horrendous for the most part for 15 years, and they don't address it. And on Saturday, their offense scored 3 points, and I don't even think we can credit the offense for scoring any points. The field goal kicker made a field goal is what happened. That drive that led to the field goal was 3 plays for 5 yards. They didn't even get a first down to kick the field. The offense was completely non-existent.
Well, again, like I said, I don't know that I follow Iowa closely enough to really give good insight. I'm sorry. I apologize for that. To be honest with you, I wish I could.
No reason to apologize. I'm just explaining why Iowa fans are just college football fans. College football fans are making fun of the Iowa offense. Iowa fans are disgruntled and getting impatient.
Well, I thought I remember a game. I don't know. It's been so long ago where Iowa played, and I think am I wrong? Was it the Orange Bowl against? I think Iowa actually beat somebody in the Orange Bowl, didn't they?
They beat Georgia Tech in the Orange Bowl.
That's what it was.
2009. Yes.
Well, I mean, I think to do that though, I mean, you have to, and I think they had a pretty good offense to do that. I would think.
They did not have one of the top 50 offenses in the country. I know that.
Well, I guess maybe my question would be, I mean, we put a lot of, I guess, stock, in rankings and ratings and, where they, I understand all that, but I think the only, this is kind of an old school philosophy, I guess, but isn't the only really statistic that really matters is the W or the L, right?
Absolutely.
I don't think people should be all up in arms if they win a game. I mean, maybe it's not the prettiest way to do it, but, like I said, South Dakota State, I think they're among the better, one of the better FCS programs. And, maybe they aren't the team that you think that you're going to have a hard time beating, but, I think the fact that you play a good team like that, I think it gives you a chance, I think, to learn maybe. And so now they can look back.
They haven't learned in 15 years, Chris. This is the point. If Iowa was playing Georgia on Saturday and they produced the kind of offense, that would be horrible. That would not be acceptable. They were playing an FCS team and they couldn't move the ball, period. Not at all. Nothing.
Well, again, like I said, I think it was last year, maybe Colorado State, I think, opened with South Dakota State. And I don't know, I can't remember. I think South Dakota State either won or I don't think Colorado State fired their coach. So I don't, but Colorado State, they're not a terrible program. They're not one of the ones you really think of, I guess, as far as really being up there and in the minds of people that really like football. But I know I went to school there one semester, and that was Sonny Lubick's first year. Mm-hmm. And they weren't bad. I mean, they were they weren't that good, but they weren't that bad either. They were decent. That's not a bad program, really. I don't know how well they recruit. That part, I think they might have a little bit. I don't think they get the best players, but every once in a while you'll hear of a really good player that comes through Colorado State. There was one, I think he was a wide receiver for, I can't think of his name, but every once in a while you'll catch one.
Well, they've got 2 really good wide receivers in the NFL right now. They've got Rashard Higgins and they've got Michael Gallup. You got those 2 for sure. Yeah.
I guess I was thinking before that, but and then every once in a while they'll get what I think is a pretty good quarterback. Like I said, I only went there really only a semester, as long as I lasted there, but they seem like they have decent programs. I mean, I think Nebraska's basketball coach was the Colorado State coach before he was recruited to Nebraska. So they do okay.
Chris, I'll put it this way, and then we'll need to move on to some other callers because we've got a number of people waiting. I'll put it this way. Let's say you owned a company, and I'm going to make it very simple because obviously in a large company, there would be more facets to it than this. But let's say you've got a sales department, you've got a operational department that deals with engineering and technology, and then you add a accounting and financial department. Those were your 3 main departments.
Right.
And let's say there was a way to rate and evaluate those 3 departments. And year after year after year after year, your accounting department finances was one of the 5 best in the industry.
Sure.
And your sales department was one of the 5 best in the industry. They were amazing. They were selling like crazy.
Sure.
But your technology didn't work. Your technology was horrible. They couldn't fix anything. And the other 2 departments were log jammed all the time and couldn't do their jobs because the technology was breaking down constantly, and their computers weren't working. Their technology, they couldn't work.
Right.
I think he would be kind of upset with the technology department and want to do something about that.
Well, and I don't want to waste your time on this, but I would think, doesn't it kind of, no matter, I mean, I know what you're saying, but it's all about execution, isn't it? I mean, you can put the game plan, you can, if the players don't, execute, or if they don't, that's why, I mean, I guess what I'm trying to say is maybe to some people that's an embarrassing loss. I don't know. I don't know enough about football to say if it is or isn't, but if you can learn, and you're playing a pretty good team, I mean, that's kind of where I'm coming from. And if you can learn from that game and, make adjustments, I mean, isn't that what good teams do? I don't think it's anything to be ashamed of. I don't quite understand why people are so upset about it, but
they haven't fixed a problem that they've had for 15 years. They can't score. They have a bad offense. They've had a bad offense for 15 years. If they had really good players, absolutely. They've had TJ Hawkinson and Noah Fant. They've had remarkable players. They had the best center in college football last year. They've had some tremendous talent, but when it all adds together, whether it's the issue of lack of development, poor play calling, poor scheme, not having a good quarterbacks coach, not recruiting and developing a quarterback, all those things put together, it equals bad offense. And is the offense deplorable every year? No, they've had okay offenses. That's the best it's been at Iowa, an okay offense.
Well, isn't there, I mean, am I wrong? Isn't there kind of a specific, kind of like it's like in some colleges, they have a kind of like a Brigham Young, they seem to do better if it's a passing offense. Aren't there some colleges that do better with a specific?
Absolutely. And I will put Iowa in the category of successful program. Every successful program has its calling card, its identity.
Right.
But the other units aren't weak links. They support. They're not elite, but they still should be supporting. They should be a positive benefit to the overall team, not a complete liability.
Okay. All right.
And again, if this happened one year, that'd be one thing. That would be just okay. Things didn't come together that one year, and they didn't develop, or they had some guys not execute. They had some injuries, whatever happened. But when you've had a bad offense for 15 years, there's time. And they had the opportunity with the transfer portal to address the quarterback position in about 47 different directions. And they didn't do it.
Wasn't that quarterback Petrus? He's not bad, is he? He's decent.
He's not good.
He's not good?
No.
I thought he was okay.
He's not a good quarterback. No.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Mark.
All right, Chris. Appreciate you stopping by.
Okay. Bye.
Now, I even hate saying that about certain players. Like, is Spencer Petras a good quarterback? If he was watching right now, I'd have to say no, based on the standard of being a quarterback in the Big Ten at a premier program. No, not a good quarterback. Threw 10 touchdowns and 9 picks last year. No, that's not good. That's just the way it is. If the guy was outside in the backyard right now throwing the football all over the field, we'd be like, oh, man, this guy's amazing. He can throw a football better than any of us watching. But that's not the standard. The standard is you're a starting quarterback in one of the top 15 to 20 programs in the country. And he's not the only reason they're not good. So he could be better in a different offense, I'm sure. But also a different quarterback would make their offense better. They got all sorts of problems there. All right, we got Daniel on the line. Welcome to the Voice of College Football. Daniel, we appreciate you being here. For some reason, your audio is like all staticky. And you're also listening to me in the background. So if you can tune that down, that would be the first step.
So is that any better?
That you tune me down? Yes, that's good. although I can still hear the reverb, so I don't know if you did or not. But if you could hear yourself right now, you would realize that you can't hear yourself. It's just nothing but it's a lot of static. I don't know what the issue is.
I'll come back and fix the audio.
Thank you. Appreciate that. All right, we'll keep it moving here. Hopefully Daniel can get that fixed. I hate when somebody waits that long and they have some issues there. McD, what's going on tonight?
Mark, you hear me?
I gotcha.
Hello?
You're a little
There we
low.
go.
Can you pop up the volume at all?
So, hey, Mark. Okay. That's it. Let's see if I could maybe do that. What I was gonna say was obviously I was gonna come on here and talk about mail. My thoughts about the mail-in game. I just had the audio screen from me. My thoughts about the mail-in game. I thought mail-in sleptwalked through that game.
Okay. Maryland's gotten to the point now they're so good they can sleepwalk through these games.
So only about 40% fill. They beat Buffalo 31-10.
Yep.
But I thought
our guy Mike Loxley is that good now that they can just sleepwalk through these games. McD, I think we're losing you. Must be a rough technical night tonight. We'll move on from McD. Let's keep it going. We got DeAndre on the line. BGPO Football Funk. DeAndre, how are you?
Good, Mark. How you doing? Can you hear me?
Doing just fine. What's going on?
Nothing. So, yeah, we took a hard hit, and, I actually did pretty good because there's some games I disagree with you on. Carolina and App State and East Carolina, NC State. People, I think, was going out to NC State, blew out East Carolina the last two times. But going to East Carolina, I could have told people it's very rarely that you see East Carolina get blown out at home. And that's a big game because, Carolina State, they used to come down there and play. Unfortunately, the kicker missed the winning field goal, but I went up with plus 12. Also, the App State game was amazing with Carolina. I went with Carolina because I thought Carolina would win. I don't understand how Carolina could recruit that well on defense, but the scheme, even with Chisholm there, they can't stop nobody. I mean, they beat Clemson out of two players. Evans out of Stanford, North Carolina, which I thought was kind of overrated because he was playing against two-way players. And, one time he had a 5'11", 5'9", 180-pound lineman trying to block him. And he had, 12 sacks. Literally, he had 12 sacks. So I kind of felt like that kind of happened. But I try to tell the people that I gamble with, my friends, the talk show, you're absolutely right. This is the first year I didn't do any parlay bets. And I came out on top with big money and no teasers either. So, you're absolutely right about not taking any parlays and teasers. But Georgia was amazing. That's the other one I think we've all got wrong. I don't know. I just thought that Oregon, the way they recruited, that it would keep the game close. And I think that's why I was kind of disappointed with the game is. Not the fact that Georgia won, but I just thought Oregon would keep it close because of the way they recruited over the last couple of years.
Well, I guess that's what I thought at the last minute, but I went through the entire offseason thinking that Georgia was going to blow out Oregon, and I said that a zillion times on here, but when it came down to it, I thought 17.5, and I thought, oh, maybe we're looking at like a 34-10 game late, and Oregon scores a touchdown and gets within 17.5, so I took those points, and I'm kicking myself because that was the one game, like the entire offseason. I said, this is the one game I'm not even thinking about. Georgia's going to kill them.
Another thing I like to go to, and I was talking backstage with some guys from Notre Dame and a couple other guys. But what I like to point out about Clemson, I think you saw it with Ohio State this time too. A lot of teams are moving to the 3-3-5 to slow down the passing game, find a way to beat you. Go back and look at the Syracuse game with Malik Cunningham. They rushed only 3 players that played some back. Ohio State this week. I would look at some of the highlights from University of Texas versus somebody, and they did the exact same thing. When people are saying that they're being hard on DJ, again, I pointed this out to you earlier in the year. Go look at what they did to him early in the year. State, Georgia Tech, and Georgia all played the 3-3-5 defense to slow him down. And when they came out of that defense, like I showed you in that clip versus State, he looked great. And so my question is like, is it 3-3-5 or something that we're going to be seeing more of 2 deep safety? Because that's what they've been doing to Patrick Mahomes in the NFL to slow him down. We're going to play 2 deep, or we're going to play 3-3-5. I think Ohio State versus Notre Dame, I think Notre Dame even dropped 9 people back in coverage versus what's the name? So some of these guys are going to have to slow their defense offense down to get it started. So,
Well, I think it's after what we saw the other night, and who was doing the game? Was it Herbstreit doing the game? He was talking about the Chiefs and the NFL. The NFL approach recently to the Chiefs. Now that hasn't really that's slowed down their big plays, and I'm not an NFL guy that watches. I love watching it, but I've not followed it closely for a long time. I know that the Chiefs are still one of the best offenses in the NFL. They just, don't hit on the home runs like they used to, and obviously let Tyreek Hill go now. But you would think that 221 points and only throwing for 220, 230, that a lot of teams would try the same thing. Now, other teams are going to not have the personnel that Notre Dame does.
Yeah, but if you go back and look at the Syracuse game,
yep,
Syracuse versus Louisville, I watched the highlights of it. One of the throws that Malik did was that the guy came up on the backside. They were just playing the zone, and the guy got the INT, and they were playing like a 3-3-5 set. They didn't even try to rush him. They were like, okay, we're going to sit in the zone. You find the openers. And I go back again to DJ Ugale. That's what they did to him a lot last year, State, Georgia, and Georgia Tech. They sat back in that 3-3-5 and said you find the holes. So what I know is what Texas did, they threw a lot out to the perimeter and said, okay, we're going to try to beat you since you're paying off of them. And that's what I see. But I ain't going to hold you up, Mark. But I appreciate the picks this week. And, man, y'all need to check out this Patreon. I hit most of mine. Like I said, I think last year we had a disagreement over Baylor and Oklahoma State. I think in the regular season. And Baylor ended up, I didn't blow it out Oklahoma State or something like that. I think he went the other way. Sometimes you got to look at it for yourself. Because I know how those schools around here hate Carolina State. Because they never used to play them. And they wouldn't come to their home stadiums to play. Like App State, before I played them 2 or 3 years ago when they beat them. That was the first time they played since 1925 or something like that. And they right up the street. It's like, why would you play a school that's in your area? And Carolina doesn't do that. They won't go down there because they never went to, I think 1998 was the first time either State or Carolina came down there to play. And so when they get those games at home, and people also, let me tell you about East Carolina, I'm going to let you go. People got to look at this guy's philosophy. He came out of James Madison. He likes to recruit players, JUCO players, and also get a lot of people out of transfer portal. So he got a lot of older teams. So that's what made it hard versus NC State. So,
all right, DeAndre.
All right.
You're going to be on after the ball game, correct?
Yep. I'll be there.
Sweet. Thanks, DeAndre.
All right.
You got Eddie Craven. You got DeAndre are going to be on after the Clemson game right here on the Clemson channel with Clemson postgame. That's what they're going to do after the Clemson game on the Clemson channel, Clemson postgame. That's how it works. All right, we're going to go back to Daniel because Daniel is crossing his fingers that the audio is working. Daniel,
I got him crossed.
Man, you sound good.
Okay,
Crystal
cool.
clear.
Man, I gotta tell you, I'm sorry I didn't come on the show sooner. I could have told you that Utah wasn't going to make the playoff. That's on me. The Pac-12 does not schedule for success. I'm telling you, I've seen this year after year after year. The last time the Pac-12 actually made the playoff, and people will tell you, well, you got to play the best, to be the best. Well, in college football, where the ranking system, which I'll get to next, is completely screwed up, you should play easier opponents if you want to go to the championship. That's the truth. I mean, the SEC does these neutral site games that are in the deep south, and the Pac-12, like a rat heading to cheese, will always, squirm their way over there. And I've seen a Justin Herbert-led Oregon team. They lost to Auburn, and that's the reason they didn't make the playoff. I've seen, and it's not even just the SEC games. I've seen USC when they had a chance to make the playoff under a bad Helton regime, and they didn't go because they went on the road to play a good Notre Dame team. I've seen time after time Thursday night games, neutral site games, tough out-of-conference games. And the last time they actually made it was to be honest, pretty average Washington team with a really good player in John Ross. And they played, I believe, and they're out of conference that year, like Idaho State, Portland State, and Rutgers. And we didn't punish them for that. So as long as we live in this 4-team playoff system, which thankfully we're getting rid of that nonsense, it honestly, I think if Utah had just stayed away from Florida and Billy Napier, and they had played some nothing school like Southern Utah or, Idaho State or UC Davis, they'd probably still be a top 5 team in a lot of people's polls right now.
So there's a ton of truth to what you're talking about. So, but not completely, but most of it I can completely agree with, because if you're a conference champion and you've got a certain record, regardless of who you played in the non-conference, the committee's going to maybe not look favorably on you, but you're going to have the prerequisites, meaning 13-1 record, conference championship. Now, there may be a tie involved. So, for example, you brought up, okay, the Washington example is obvious. Yeah, they did. They technically played the worst non-conference schedule that year. The Rutgers team that they beat was no good. And they even lost to USC by 2 touchdowns at home in the regular season and still made the playoff and won a ugly conference championship game. Let's see, that was 2016. No, they killed Colorado that year.
Yeah, Colorado was not very good.
And they were no good. Yeah, they showed later against, Washington and Oklahoma State in the bowl game that Colorado was smoke and mirrors that year. So, yeah, so we got Washington into the playoff because they were a conference champion with only 1 loss, and there was nobody else to really compare them to. Now, the Oregon year in 2019, so let's say they didn't play Auburn, and they would have played a nobody and won the game. They still, that season, would have been compared to an Oklahoma team that won the Big 12 and played a difficult non-conference game. Maybe Oklahoma didn't even play a difficult one. I think they played UCLA that year. I'd have to look it up, but I think it was UCLA that year.
That was the Jalen Hurts team, right?
Yes, that was the Jalen Hurts team. So to your point, yes, Oregon would have been back in the conversation with only 1 loss as the conference champion, but probably Oklahoma would have gotten the nod, as opposed to if Oregon would have played pass defense for 1 more play and beat Auburn, then they would have made the playoff.
It's possible you're right about that. I remember that Oklahoma team was pretty good. It's possible
that I'm right about it.
It's possible. I mean, I recall
it's possible that I'm right about it. Okay.
That year, I remember Oregon lost a horrendous game. So was it Arizona State? And Jaden Daniels tricked everyone into thinking he was an elite quarterback. And Not taking anything away from him. He played pretty well actually yesterday. I heard someone saying he didn't. That's nonsense. He played pretty well.
Yeah, he did.
But I recall the discussion going into that championship game was Utah was 11-1, and they had not beaten a single top 25 team. And I believe they were ranked above Oklahoma going into the championship games. And everybody was saying if Utah can beat Oregon, even though Utah played nobody that year, and usually Utah doesn't really play anybody, which makes the Florida home and home kind of surprising. And I think they'll probably catch Florida next year. I think Utah probably would have gotten in over Oklahoma if they had beaten Oregon. So I think it's fair to assume if Oregon hadn't played Auburn and they had just played, Portland State or an Arkansas State, they probably would have gotten over that Oklahoma team. I remember there being a lot of questions about Lincoln Riley and the physicality of that team.
Yeah, so that Utah team beat BYU on the road. That was their quote-unquote difficult non-conference game. But you're right, Utah's typically not played anyone non-conference outside of BYU. They had Michigan, Harbaugh's first game. But anyway, yeah, it's a flawed system. There's no question about that. Now, I do think that the committee would have been able to explain away flipping, much like they did in 2014 with Ohio State, TCU, and Baylor, flipping Oklahoma in front of Utah, having played a more difficult game and a more difficult team in the conference championship game.
And to be clear, I actually would have had no issue with that because I recall, did Oklahoma play Baylor that year in the championship game? Baylor was a pretty good team.
Yeah.
And they'd actually proven themselves. So I wouldn't have had an issue with that necessarily. It's just that once again, you just see with this committee, I can already guess what the week 2 rankings are going to look like. And this is why the ranking system just does not work, both for the pre-college ball playoff rankings and then after, is we're probably going to see Utah. Oh, they had their embarrassing loss where they barely lost to Florida, where they were barely favored. And in my mind, I think Utah looked exactly like what we thought they were going to look like.
Mm-hmm.
They played pretty consistently. They controlled the game pretty much the entire time, with the occasional Anthony Richardson shocking us that he's way better than I think a lot of us believed he was. But all in all, Utah played their style of football. They just had a couple red zone failures that I think you can chalk up to just the swamp being a tough place to play. And yet, I can almost assume that Utah will be ranked behind an Oklahoma State team that just gave up, 45 points to, was it Central Michigan? And then NC State only beat East Carolina because a kicker, man, I feel bad for that kid, missed a PAT and a field goal. Like, that just doesn't make any sense to me. I don't understand how this Utah team, who I think they're everything that was advertised, they don't have a lot of stars. They play efficiently. They do what they need to do. And they're probably going to be ranked below a couple teams that won poorly.
Well, I don't completely agree that Utah, I understand your point that they controlled the game. They seemed like the better team, and they didn't play in the spurts that Florida did. Florida looked dominant in spurts, and then Utah pretty much played its game from start to finish. They played like Utah from start to finish. Yes, the rankings are going to reflect wins and losses. So certain teams can play nobody in week 1 and just maintain their position in the rankings versus other teams went out and challenge themselves and they're going to get punished. But that's how the rankings work. And I see both sides of that because while Oklahoma State and who did you mention? Somebody else?
NC State.
Oh, NC State. Yeah. Especially in the NC State. So the NC State situation to me is a little bit different because NC State did not make a play to win that game.
Yeah, not one.
And at the conclusion of the game, meaning it's one thing if they would have blocked the kick, if they would have made a play that won the game. they didn't win the game because Dave Doran special teams are that good and they blocked a kick or did something special to win the game to preserve the win. And I would have still said, well, they were really fortunate to escape, but at least they made a play. This is just flat out, you and I could have been on NC State special teams and just stood there, and the guy missed the kick. He missed 2 kicks, like you mentioned. So they didn't make a play. They were gifted a win. Oklahoma State, I didn't watch any of that game. I watched the entire NC State East Carolina game. Oklahoma State, I didn't watch that game, but they did have a 51-15 lead in that game. So I think they just took their foot off the gas. They were never really threatened. They won by 14 points. That's just kind of a cosmetic bad look in terms of a final score.
Yeah, I mean, I get the idea of your wins and losses should reflect your ranking. I just think when we just keep it as simple as that, we're just trying to make it feel as NFL as possible, and college football is not an NFL game. You know, I mean, I'm a USC fan. I'll be the first person to admit. I was hearing people say today, is USC back and is Utah falling? It's like, well, USC beat Rice. Rice was a horrible team last year. In fact, they've been horrible for years. USC scoring 60 on Rice is not saying much. Lincoln Riley could have been the head coach at a team with a lot less talent than USC, and he probably still could have put up 60 points on Rice. And I'm not sure USC would have gone into the swamp and beaten Utah or beaten Florida. So it's just stuff like that that doesn't make sense. I mean, Florida was what, a 2.5 point dog going into the game, 3.5 points.
Yes.
And then NC State was, I want to say, a 13-point favorite over East Carolina.
Yeah.
So why are we not basing how well the performance was based off what Vegas tells us? Because the way I look at it is, okay, Ohio State was favored by 17 and they won by 11. So they played maybe minusculely worse than we thought they should, possibly. And even that's debatable because I think we all underestimated Notre Dame. I don't understand why rankings don't change based off of that. I mean, if you think about it, Utah lost by, what did they lose by? 3 points, 2 points, something like that?
Yeah,
1?
3. I think it was
And
3. They could have kicked the field goal and tied
the
game.
tie. Okay, so they lost basically by 6.5 points is the way you should look at that. Is they lost by 3, they were favored by 3.5. So 6.5 is the difference. NC State won a game by, I believe, 1 point, and they were favored by 12.5.
I understand your logic. And bringing the Vegas factor into it, but why would we rank teams based on what Vegas thinks? So, for example, if Bama's a 42-point favorite against Utah State and they only win by 28, are we going to penalize Bama and say they came up 14 points shy of what we anticipate or expect, so we're going to drop them in the rankings?
Well, they also did it, though, because they beat them by 55 points.
Sure.
I mean, I think if you look at these normally, and we can use hypotheticals, I get that. But all I'm saying is, generally, you can tie. Vegas is pretty accurate. They get some wrong, especially earlier in the season when we don't know teams as well. They generally get games pretty close to right.
You're right, Daniel. Let me amend that statement just slightly. The thing that's impressive about Vegas is that they're either on the money or when they miss it badly.
It's huge.
Well, it's huge, but it's also something that none of the rest of us got it either. Like when they miss it badly, it's like, well, we all missed it badly.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And, you know, I'm not trying to bash the people who make these rankings. I sometimes do wonder how much some of these people actually watch college football.
Yeah. See, you've arrived at the right channel, Daniel. You can go ahead and bash the people that do the rankings because they don't know, many of them, what they're doing. And I will just say this very briefly because I've explained it more fully, but
yeah,
just people don't understand out there all the time that most of the people that write for the Associated Press, they cover one team. And their entire world is that team. They cover Arkansas football. That's all they watch. That they go to the practices. Everything is Arkansas football. That's all they write about. That's all they know. I used to rub shoulders with these guys like for 8 years when I was a sportscaster, And I'd go to all the news conferences, and I was a college football junkie, of course, who DVR'd and watched all the stuff. And I'm more a national minded guy. These guys, that's their job. That's what they should be doing. I'm not knocking them, but to have them vote on things that involve like Heisman trophies and All-America teams and the rankings, they don't know. They have no idea what's good. They see a score. That's all they know.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not even going to get into the Heisman. I mean, even as a USC fan, if Caleb Williams won the Heisman today, yeah, would it be cool to see another giant T-shirt over in the corner of the stadium that had his number? Sure. It doesn't mean anything. I've seen tons of players who should have won the Heisman and didn't. And that's not knocking the players who did, because they obviously had great seasons to get there. But yeah, I mean, that the Heisman is a joke of an award. And just finally, the last thing I wanted to say before I head out is I got to say these last 10 years or so, I think actually have been some of the worst years of college football. And I think we're finally turning a page. I think the BCS was objectively a better system than what we have now. And I know people will look at me like, you know, what are you talking about? As a USC fan, you should be horrified because they once didn't get into the championship because Hawaii lost at 1 a.m. or something like that. I get that. I'm just saying, in the system where 4 teams are the only ones that look like they're worth anything, all the recruits go to the same 4 or 5 schools. You know, the balance is completely thrown off. It's not good. And more than anything, you know, I've seen recently that student sections just don't seem as crazy as they used to be. And this is a weird comparison I'm going to make. And maybe this is just because I hate UCLA and I'm blaming that guy. But I honestly think because that UCLA guy got rid of EA Sports college football, that younger kids didn't grow up learning this sport. There's too many teams. They didn't learn the fight songs. They didn't learn the team names. Like, they don't know the history of this game. And this is coming from a 22-year-old kid in college. And I just think bringing back that game is going to get so many younger kids to learn about this game in a way that, honestly, I feel like they've kind of checked out a little bit the last couple of years. It's just been Bama's the best. Why should I watch?
Well, Daniel, I gotta move on, but it's great to hear from a guy that has some perspective from your age bracket, because I'm an old guy. I don't think of things like that. But that's you brought up a couple points that, again, go right by me, because I'm not involved in video games, could care less. I stopped playing video games when I was like 15 years old, so I could care less and don't think about that and don't know the impact, but it's valid because it's reality. So thanks for that. Call back anytime, sir.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Let's keep it moving here. We've got a lot to go through, and I'm telling everyone right now, I am stopping at kickoff, but I will try to be quicker with phone calls. Thank you so much, everyone, for calling in, because I just want to sit and watch football, although I'm going to be working on the top 25 that actually makes sense, and I'm going to be working on previewing a game this week. We got a great response for our previews, week 1 previews, like 25,000 views in that range: Ohio State, Notre Dame, Utah, Florida, and Oregon, Georgia. So I'm going to do that. That showed me that, hey, you guys will watch game previews. So I will pick out the best games of this week and highlight those, which we did actually. South Carolina, Arkansas, we released a preview a couple hours ago. Will's on the line.
What's going on, Mark?
What is going on?
Oh, I feel so much better after that LSU game. Oh, it warmed my little heart.
That did it for you, huh?
That was a fun call by Daniel. But, I mean, to be honest, the reason how I started watching college football is my dad always had the games on. Like, my dad sat on his couch with his coffee, watched the noon game, then the Notre Dame game, and then whatever the 8 o'clock ABC game was. That's how I grew up on college football. But, yeah. So for the Irish, I really want to hope that Marcus Freeman could take a seat with Tommy Rees and they can talk about the offense. Hopefully we'll get it smoothed out a bit. And I'm really happy for Jordan. Is this the tree?
That is a tremendous comment. You get a tree right behind you.
Oh, yeah.
Good comment, JC. I enjoyed it. I don't know why. It struck me funny.
And why is this like the Monday night game? Like Clemson, Georgia Tech, like this is just going to be a smashing. We should have
Exactly.
had Utah, Florida tonight. That would have been
It
so
also
much
should be a
better.
non-conference game. We should not
Yeah.
have conference games. We'll be watching conference games after next week. It should be big non-conference games.
Yeah,
Yes.
Utah, Florida should be tonight. Like they shouldn't have crossed that game over with the Notre Dame Ohio State game.
Yeah,
in my
that's
opinion.
it. We should just have another game. Yeah, I agree with that. That's fine, whether it would be Utah, Florida, or just another big non-conference game. Yes.
Yeah, and it was just so fun watching the end of that LSU Florida State game with on the Discord, people. And it's only $5. And you know what? You're actually going to make money by using Mark's picks. Like
Well, let's not promise anything.
Well, you're the voice of college football. You know what's going to. I mean, you know what's going to go on most of the time.
Well, I will say that, yeah, I will have to post my lifetime all-time record just to show. And it's all time stamped. It's all verified. It's all here on YouTube because I used to put all my video picks on YouTube. So it's all verified. So I should post my all-time record. I'm not like the best in the business. I'm not like a handicapper or odds maker, but I'm way over. The cutting point is 52%. You got to hit 52% to break even. I'm always in that 58 to 60% range against the spread.
And yeah, so I really think also with the Notre Dame offense, I just hope that Marcus Freeman can try to get the team to be a little more aggressive, and hopefully Harry Houston can work with the offensive line because he immediately transformed the offensive line in the 2012 season when he took over. The offensive line took the leap.
Yep.
But with the injuries going on to Jared Patterson, I think it might take a little more time, and just hopefully the Irish fans can be patient with Harry because I mean Harry's not a miracle worker. He's just a person. So hopefully that offensive line can take a jump and we can not to say like dominate the Clemson offensive line, but at least like give Buckner a little more time. And he has a quick release, so hopefully we can do more passing for the offense. And yeah, do you think never mind, I won't ask that question. But so for the top 25 that actually makes sense right now, is Georgia definitively number one after their performance against Oregon?
I can't tell you that.
I know. Yeah, I know.
Going to release the top 25.
But yeah, also like I just think we already have such a great time. If you wanna, I'm sure we'll be watching the game on the Discord tonight. So join the Discord tonight and you can hop on, watch the game with us, and have a great time. And maybe laugh at some plays that Jeff Collins team calls.
Yeah,
because I don't know.
Opener.
Although I am a fan of Chip, I do love me some Chip Long.
Yeah.
So
okay, yeah.
But I don't know, like with the offense, with the talent gap, Chip might not be able to have as much success with Georgia Tech just because the talent isn't as good as it was at Notre Dame. But yeah, I mean, Brian Driscoll has so many great things to say about Chip. I mean, they're friends. But yeah, so hopefully for Jeff Collins' sake that they can get something on this Clemson defense. But honestly, I don't see them scoring an offensive touchdown. I'll give them a field goal, but that's about it.
Okay. Okay, Will, anything else for us?
Well, I know there's a lot of callers on the line, so I'm going to take my leave, but excited to watch more college football, and hopefully it's a competitive game.
Thanks, Will. We'll see you. All right, we're going to go rapid fire here. We got Ben. Ben, what's going on tonight?
Hey, Mark, how's it going? I just want to agree with Will. It's a lot of fun over on the Patreon watching the games. We watched it last night, and it was just fun watching Will's emotions just go up and down as Florida State almost blew the game a couple times, and he wanted Brian Kelly to lose so bad. And he finally got that moral victory after taking a beating from all his teams this week. So we were happy for Will, but we had a lot of fun razzing him on the while the game was going on. But yeah, that's a lot of fun. What I just wanted to bring one thing I wanted to talk with you, Mark, about, and I don't want to set you up too much, and I'm going to kind of preference this by saying, I mean, fans be fans the way they want. We love this game, but I want to say that people were criticizing the coach for Florida, what's his name, Mike Norvell, and my one thing I want to say about that whole situation is I think the safe thing to do would have been to kick a field goal on third down. And if something happens, something went wrong at the end where they fumbled, you kick the field goal on third down, something goes wrong, like a bad snap or something, you can kick it again. You're two scores ahead. That's the safe thing to do. But as a fan base, I asked a couple people on the show about Mel Tucker, and he was in the same situation. A field goal would have put him up by 2 scores, and he went actually on fourth down. He needed a yard, and he went for it, which a field goal would have been the safe situation. And everybody thought that was the right decision. Actually, you thought that was the right decision. I want to know the difference between the two calls. I mean, I understand pitches are a little bit more risky, but I mean, if you practice it, triple option teams do that all the time. They live by that.
Yeah, triple option teams do that all the time.
Yeah, I don't know how much they practice it. I mean, they could have practiced it to.
Obviously, by the way Florida State runs its offense, they're not practicing that all the time because they're not a triple option team.
Yeah.
So you're telling us that Mel Tucker in the game that they just played the other night on Friday they won that eventually like 35-13. So you're saying it was what, 27-13?
Oh, it was a 1-score game.
So there's a 1-score game.
And they would have made it a 2-score for the field goal. I don't remember the exact score at the moment now.
Well, they won by 22 points. So this must have been much earlier in the game, though.
It was still in fourth quarter. Yeah, it was early in the fourth quarter. But if they would have put it, I mean, it was only, it was, I think, maybe 4 minutes left at most when they put that touchdown in and made it a 2-score. And then I think they scored again, stopped them and scored again. But at the same time, they could have been in a situation where they didn't make it, and Western Michigan went down and scored and been tied up in the fourth quarter.
Well, I also have to think that if you're Michigan State, your confidence in your ability to pick up a first down versus Western Michigan is different than if you're Florida State against LSU.
Yeah, but also if you lose that game versus Western Michigan, it looks a lot worse. I mean,
sure.
so the payoff to the ratio of the payoff to risk factor, evens out there. Yeah, that you got a better chance, but then also your stakes are much higher.
Yes and no. The way you're looking at it, yes, as a big favorite and expected to win versus somebody might also say that the other game has higher stakes just because more people are watching and more attention's being given to that game. And the stakes are high that if you win the game, think of it this way. Think of it this way, though. Okay. Who's got more equity in the bank? Mel Tucker at Michigan State after going 11-2 and finishing in the top 10 in the country in his one season, or Mike Norvell, who's hanging by a thread because he's 9-12. Can I do the math? 8-13, going on 8-14 if he loses that game, and he completely blows a game that was in the bag.
Yeah, I mean, I see your point there, and it's a good one, but you can also look at it from the viewpoint of a call is a call. It doesn't matter if you take the bias out, the call is a call. Wherever you're at, you know what I'm saying? You could take out whether you're Scott Frost or whether you're Nick Saban. A good call is a good call, and a bad call is a bad call. It doesn't.
Wait a minute. I understand that, but then you were just giving me the stakes of the game.
Yeah, no, we were
So
talking
you're
about the
changing
stakes.
your argument. At first, you were saying that they had different stakes because of who they were playing. So then I was
No,
countering
you
that by
brought
letting
that
you
up.
know that they had different stakes based on their status with the program and what they've accomplished.
Yeah,
So
I
now
wasn't
you're
trying to make
saying,
I wasn't trying to make the point that depending on who, I mean, I thought I was kind of going along with the difference between, you were saying that Western Michigan, you should be able to put that in, being Western Michigan, and that's when but I didn't think, my original point, I don't think it has anything to do with the stakes of the game.
okay.
Because
I didn't raise that point about the stakes of the game. I was talking about the opponent involved and your ability to move them out of the way to gain a first down.
Yeah, I mean, I know what you're. Yeah, I mean, I guess I may have misunderstood what you were getting at when you said that. I just thought, I mean, if you're going to consider your opponent, then you consider. If you're considering your opponent and who you're playing, then you consider, then just naturally add in the stakes of the game and what it's going to do. That's kind of where I probably sidetracked on the argument.
Well,
But
again,
I mean, I think if you're already in that situation with, no matter what opponent you are in that situation with, you are in that situation because you haven't played good football, or because the other team is a challenging you enough to have to worry about that situation.
Okay, so I think I found our situation here. There's 6 minutes left in the game. Michigan State's up 21-13. So they're up not just a touchdown, but a 2-point conversion. That's something as well, just in terms of percentage chance that you're going to blow that lead. And they're sitting at the Western Michigan 1-yard line. They felt that they could punch it in. And I'm a big believer in that if you're 1 yard away and you're going to not make it, you've then forced the other team to drive the ball 99 yards to have to score a touchdown and make a 2-point conversion. And you're Michigan State and you're playing Western Michigan. Anyway, Ben, I got to get going.
Okay, Mark, it wasn't it. All right, you have a good one. Thanks. Catch you later.
All right, let's keep it moving here. We got J Love on the line. J Love, how's it going?
What's up, Mr. Rogers, man? Good evening, brother. How you doing, sir?
I am doing just fine. It's good to hear from you.
Yeah, thank you, man. Thank you, man. I can't wait to be a member of the Patreon. I don't know why, man, but I'm getting everything settled with my Apple iPhone right now as we speak.
Sweet.
But I have a question, because I know you're not biased and you always keep it real with the Miami fans.
I do my best.
Yes. So let me ask you one question, and this will go viral. Does the win from FSU last night puts more pressure on Miami to beat Texas A&M?
No. I think what Miami's doing right now is they should not be concerned in any way with what's going on in Florida State. If Miami does what it should do and takes care of business, and Mario Cristobal continues to recruit at the level he does, and with the coaching staff that they have in play with Josh Gaddis and Charlie Strong and Kevin Steele and that entire coaching staff and the recruiting that they've got going, sure, they don't want Florida State to do well. Of course, they're a rival. They don't want them to do well. Or, some people have the thought that you want your rival to do well, so you have a big time, high stakes game. But anyway, most people don't. But Miami, if Miami takes care of its own business, they're fine. They're in a better position right now than Florida State to succeed.
Okay, say less. What if Florida State ends up winning 9 games and Miami only wins 7 games? Do you see a turnaround there? Does that make a difference?
Well, yeah, then that makes a difference. Sure, winning has a lot to do with recruiting, and especially when you're talking about the team you're competing directly with for recruits. And if you're Mario Cristobal and you come in, claiming that, we're here to win championships and we're going to do this, and you don't show any improvement because the last guy went 7-5 and you go 7-5 while Florida State's coming in hot at 9-3. Sure, that can start to move the needle. Absolutely.
Okay. Say less. All right, I'm not gonna hold you up, Mark, man. Congratulations on your platform and on the growth and everything like that. And keep doing what you're doing, brother. And I can't wait to support.
Thank you, J Love. I appreciate that. It's great to hear from you. Our guy J Love's here. Appreciate him being here. Now we're going to move it on to we got Michael Hogue on the line. Michael, how you doing tonight?
Hey, Mark, not too bad. Yourself? Hope you're having a great Labor Day today.
I am doing well.
Hey, I just wanted to add on to when you guys was killing me Saturday last night in the chat about the Ohio State game. I'm not saying the Ohio State's not a good team. To me, and you was one of the people who was killing me. In my opinion, they would play mediocre football. And if they play like that in the Big Ten before they did in the fourth quarter, they're going to lose some games this year. That's what I was trying to say. To what?
I understand your point, Michael. They didn't come in there and throw for 450 yards and 5 touchdowns and beat Notre Dame 52-20 like most of America thought they would. But most of America was pretty clueless about the quality of these two teams and the way this game was going to be played. That's all I'm saying. The game was not as high scoring as I thought it was going to be. Again, I had both teams about 10 points higher. But other than that, I think that this game was a tremendous effort / win and solved. And again, you got to continue to build on it and do those things in the running game and on the defensive side of the ball to continue to build on this effort. But if anything, this type of game impressed me more and was more meaningful. That's more accurate. It's more meaningful than had Ohio State did what it did against, let's say, Michigan State or Purdue last year when they threw 4 touchdowns in the first quarter and the game was over and the defense didn't have to prove anything because they were up by 4 scores before they blinked. The defense had to gut out a game and win a game, and the running game had to push an elite defensive front in the fourth quarter of a 1-score game.
I was impressed. I was impressed with the Ohio State defense. It was a lot better and stuff like that. But I was
Who else this season is going to shut out Notre Dame in the second half? We don't know the answer to that question, but my guess is no one.
True. I mean, we'll see what happens. We still got a lot of football. Yeah, but I will say this. So that's what I'm saying. I wasn't taking nothing from the defense. I was just talking mostly about the offense. Because I'm an offensive-minded person.
Okay. You're an offensive-minded person. They threw for 220, 230. Their 2 backs each ran for about 90 yards. They were missing their best receiver. He got hurt. Maybe the best wide receiver in the country got hurt. I'm not saying it was some scintillating offensive performance, but you also have to understand the style of defense that Notre Dame was playing forced Ohio State into that type of game.
Now, are you still on the mindset that Harrison's not good? My thing I'm trying to figure out is why is it there's a lot of people thinking Harrison's going to actually be better than Njigba Smith or Smith and Njigba?
Well, he's, Ohio State fans may nitpick with me on this one, but I'm making a generalization. You can almost liken these two to the 2 that they're replacing, to Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave. Chris Olave is more of a baller. He's more of a slightly shorter guy and just more of a underneath guy. And Garrett Wilson is the guy that looks like he was created by God to play receiver in the NFL. Long strides, big build, huge range of motion, wingspan, can pluck the ball out of the air. Just looks like he was built to go straight from college football into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And that's the way Marvin Harrison looks.
Okay. Well, and I'm going to get back to the Purdue game on Thursday night and stuff like that. Overall, in general, there was times and stuff like that where I thought O'Connell maybe forced the issue, maybe rushed a couple of stuff like that. But are you still on the mindset that I'm in the minority where Brom should have not ran the ball? He should have kept going with the way he was in the last 6 minutes of the game?
So I know you're upset about that, and that was, of course, before the last Sean Clifford drive. So it was you were up by a field goal,
Yep.
correct? Or
Yep.
four, whatever the score was, and yeah, I think in that situation. So, but there was quite a bit of time left.
Yeah, there's 6 minutes left, and Purdue just, if I'm not mistaken, Purdue just retook the lead right after the pick six.
So if I'm the coach and I'm calling the shots, I don't go ultra conservative, but I don't go as aggressive as Purdue. I try to run the ball. My first down play call is probably a run or maybe some kind of bootleg pass that gets the tight end out in the flat. You see that work all the time. But anyway, I'm generally of the mindset that if they can't stop us on the ground, then the game's over. We just keep running the ball. But you got to understand, your team doesn't run the ball well and did not run the ball that well in this game. Now, you ran it better than maybe some people expected, but you still didn't run it well.
I mean, we had 7. You take away, I mean, yeah, stuff they had 70 yards as a team and stuff like that. And yeah, Daru was averaging 4.4 yards a carry and stuff like that.
Who averaged 4.4 yards a carry?
No. If you look at Daru's numbers, like that, he was averaging about 4 yards a carry, was he not?
3.8. So if you take out Aiden O'Connell, you've got 21 rushes. Is that correct? 21 for 87. Who ran well here? Doru had 3.8 yards per carry and Dylan Downing 3.5. So your two rushers averaged 3.5 yards per carry. So,
and usually you want to try to get what, about 4 yards a carry?
Well, all you need is about 3.5 per carry to hang on to the football.
Yeah.
You know, if you do the math, you need 3.5 yards per carry, and you're going to get 10 yards to move the sticks.
Like that. No, that's the thing. And have you got a chance to rewatch the game yet?
I haven't even gotten to enough games that I just would like to watch one time. No, I have not rewatched the Penn State Purdue game, and we're already 5 days away, so I'm not, unfortunately,
you're probably not going to be able to.
Penn State and Purdue.
No, I was just trying to figure out.
As much as I would love to.
I just, because from what I've seen, that looked like that might have been, that was a catch. And I'm just trying to figure out what happened.
Yeah, I should go back and look at that. I would like to go back and look at that.
All right.
Maybe I'll run back and watch the cut down version. So
yeah.
All right, Michael.
All right. Enjoy the Georgia Tech game if you can tonight.
Yeah. Thanks for being here.
All right. See you, Mark.
All right. Last caller of the night. Let's see what we can get stirred up here. Corey, how we doing tonight?
I know you're trying to watch the game. I'm just going to take you for a second. First of all, I want to say shame on you. You had a guy call in about, 20 minutes. I've been hold for 20, 25 minutes.
Yeah.
And he tried saying that Utah should be ranked. I'm pretty sure you should be vehemently shutting nonsense like that down, Mark. Like, I first of all, I appreciate the banner, Iowa fan Corey. That's accurate. But the fact that, and thank you for choosing this week of all weeks to make sure that you make that my banner. No, the fact that you didn't shut that down within 2 seconds of it coming out of the kid's mouth is frustrating to me.
Okay, he made a point that had validity.
It didn't have validity, Mark. There is no validity to any argument that says that a team that lost to a team that went 7-6 last year should be ranked.
Okay, what they did last year, and actually Florida went 6-7, but what they did last year.
Thanks, Mark.
Yeah, I'm helping your side here before I tear it down. So your point of view is valid as well. They're both valid. So you believe in just taking all the teams that won games, and they should all be ranked. And if you lost a game, you should not be ranked.
No, that's not necessarily straight. You're telling me that you got 130 FBS teams, all right?
Yes.
And you're telling me that Utah's loss to a team that, again, went 6-7 last year is more impressive than everyone but 25, or excuse me, it's more impressive than 90, I can't do my math right now. 95 teams, 95 other teams, half of which won. I just find that very, if we're not letting preseason rankings influence our decision making, which I know you do a great job of not doing, Mark.
Yeah,
who cares what Utah's projected to do or where they were ranked heading into the game? They lost on the road. I'm not saying they won't be in the top 25 next week, but we're basing it off resume this week. They lost on the road to a team that was 6-7 last year that also hasn't proven anything in 2022. So there's no way you can rank them. I'm just saying there's no way you can rank them ahead of all those other teams, half of which won.
Okay. When I approach my rankings, you understand how I approach my rankings.
Yes.
But we both have to understand that even in that, with that approach, I have to make some assumptions or have to make some projections. So in ranking the Florida win against the Utah team that won the Pac-12, went to the Rose Bowl, all those things last year, I have to make some kind of evaluation of how good Utah was for Florida to have beaten them and to rank their win.
I get it. And I was just thinking as I was on hold that not that you're going to agree with this, but I think you could make an argument for not having rankings until week 2. Correct? Can we agree on that? Because then you at least have.
You're basically saying that you can make any assumption on any game, and the result being that the team that won is really, really good because they beat a really, really good team. Or you could say we can't say they're really, really good because we think the other team's not very good.
Right. I mean,
but when you have 2 results, you can then say,
correct.
Okay, even though we don't have anything close to a complete picture, we at least have another result to counter our initial reaction or evaluation.
Absolutely. And, do I believe Utah's one? I want to establish this. I'm not trying to rip on the kid that called in. Do I believe Utah is one of the top 25 teams? Yes. But if we're talking about the premise of the rankings, which you and I both believe in strongly, then I don't believe, trying to take anything from talent rankings, from recruiting rankings, from last year's results should make a difference. And I would say the same thing for Notre Dame. Now Notre Dame, there's a slight difference there. Notre Dame did play, Ohio State, but again, if we're going under that pretense that you can't make an evaluation without evaluating any one team through at least one game, then yeah, I think the argument could be made that you shouldn't have rankings until week 2. Do you disagree with that, Mark?
You're trying to shut down my top 25 until
No,
week 2?
No, not at all. I'll watch when you release it tomorrow. In fact, I went on your channel today and I said, where the heck is this top 25 that actually makes sense? And I'm like, okay, we got Georgia Tech Clemson tonight.
That's right. So Georgia Tech could pull off a miraculous win and be ranked number 2 in the country.
Right. Yeah. And so again, I think it's fair to say if we're ranking teams, my belief is that if we're ranking teams based upon week 1 results without any other results to weigh. Now there were some week 0 games. Let's acknowledge that. There were teams that played during week 0 and also played in week 1. So, but if we're solely basing it on your week 1 results and even taking into account last season, I don't know what is so impressive about going on the road and losing to Florida, Mark?
Well, again, there have to be, I don't know if I want to call them assumptions, but I am, or evaluations made based on just, okay, this is the team. So your evaluation of Iowa before they played, you had certain logical expectations of who Iowa was based on what you know of the team.
Yeah.
And then the players they added, the players subtracted.
True.
So we have a pretty general confirmation of who Utah should be based on how good the team was last year, who they gained, who they lost.
Sure. I agree. But again, you know, you and I just have a different opinion on what's proven through a loss. I just don't. And so maybe I do place too much importance on record. And I feel like the committee has over the years placed too much importance on record.
Let me say it another way. Obviously, all that matters, if this was any other sport, if this is the NFL, the NBA, all that matters is who won the game and who lost the game. Doesn't matter by how many points. It makes no difference. Now, it matters in terms of people's perception of how good the teams are, and it should. You know, if you go out and lose 50-0, that says a lot about your team versus losing 28-27 to the same team. Those are two completely different performances, but the end result is still a loss. Therefore, you know how the Utah-Florida game ended.
Yeah. Yep.
So there's an interception at the 2-yard line.
Right.
So if that quarterback makes a different decision and throws a game-winning touchdown pass, you're going from 0 to 100 on both sides. If all you're looking at is a result of a game as a win or a loss. But the performance and evaluation of how good those teams are is almost exactly the same. The difference is just a decision by a quarterback in one moment.
So,
I'll put it this way as well. Of course, my ranking of Utah and Florida is going to be a direct result of that result on the field. But my evaluation of the two teams and how good they are is barely any different based on the play of one quarterback and one decision at the goal line.
I get that, and maybe part of my issue is I'm so inbred with this mentality of a win's a win because I'm a part of Iowa football that is winning 7-3 games over FCS opponents. That could be a part of this as well. Now, certainly, I would not rank Iowa in the top 25 because I do believe in your system, and I think we don't really disagree that differently. And I call in just to poke the bear at times, Mark.
No, I enjoy that. I enjoy that, and people actually, as you well know, would like us to do that more. So we've got. Do you see the comment on the screen right now? The super chat.
Yes, our good listener who lives on the farm.
Okay, oink oink.
Yep.
I gotta say, oink oink. I've got a lot of respect. We appreciate you being here, but Iowa is going 7-5 regardless of their offense. What's that even mean?
Like, I don't know what that doesn't
they have
make
the best
sense.
offense in the country. They're not going 7-5, so they're not going 7-5 regardless of their offense. Well, maybe he means in spite. Okay, maybe he means in spite of their offense, they'll still go 7-5. Okay, that I can understand.
Yeah, I don't know. Mark, we're going to talk about this tomorrow, and I know you got to get going because you got to watch this game. And this is, we seem to somehow go around to Iowa, but I'm just telling you right now, if Iowa's offense plays like it did Saturday, I venture to say they're not going to win a game. After, I'm serious. I mean, if it's as bad as, and I don't expect it to be, we've been saying all off season, Mark, that it has to get better because it cannot get any worse. Well, we were wrong, but I'd like to backpedal and now restate that now that we're a week into the season and say it has to get better, Mark, because it cannot get any worse. All right. So I expect the offense to get better, but if we're under that assumption that it will not get better from week 1, then they will not win another game this season because that was an FCS team with an FCS defense. And look, that offense is good, not great. It's still not an FBS offense. It's a very good FCS offense. I don't know much about that defense. They're not known for their defense. So I'd like to think that Nevada could come in here and win if the defense, if the offense is like it was. So I don't know. We'll have a fun show on Tuesday, Mark. But again, just poking the bear. Enjoy the Tigers and the Yellow Jackets, and we'll get your top 25 tomorrow.
Are you happier with your banner now?
Well, yes, because no, I shouldn't joke around about that. I'm always proud to call myself a Hawkeye, but when you say Iowa fan, 2 days after that 7. I've never felt, and we're talking about this tomorrow. I've never felt the way I felt after a win as I did on Saturday. Never, Mark. And I've witnessed a lot of ugly ones. I've never, ever walked away from a game thinking like it still doesn't even feel like they won the game. It's just like the most ridiculous game I've ever seen in my life. And, and then you have to add the part in that, hey, the defense is actually, you mentioned that you brought up to one of your callers earlier about, well, who, does anybody have a chance of shutting Ohio State out in the second half of a game? Well, Iowa's defense looks as equipped to do that as anybody's. I'll say that. I'm not saying they would.
That's not what I said.
Well, say it. I see the smirk. What's going on?
Ohio State shut out Notre Dame in the second half, and I was telling Michael, I said,
"Oh, I got you. Okay,
you tell me who else is going to shut out Notre Dame in the second half," which obviously could happen, but I just highly doubt it's going to happen.
Okay, I misunderstood you. Yeah, you're right. So Ohio State didn't get shut off in the second half. But yeah, if I say Iowa played Notre Dame, I suppose. Well, who's the toughest defense that Notre Dame has left on its schedule?
Clemson.
Okay, well, who's to say? I mean, I didn't watch all that game last night.
I'm not making a guarantee. I wouldn't put $1 million or my life on the line by stating that. I'm just saying I doubt it.
Yeah, I would doubt it too, and I think it's scary if the Ohio State, and again, I didn't watch all that game. If the Ohio State that we got defensively on Saturday is the Ohio State we get moving forward, I'm with you. I think what they did Saturday is actually more impressive. To be able to win a game like that, we've all seen as you brought up, we've all seen the Michigan State, Purdue. I'm trying to think of other teams they absolutely.
Those were the two best teams that they just it was over 28 zip first quarter done.
Right. Yeah. I think to be able to win like that against a team that I perceive to be one of the top 20 teams in the country. I think they're overranked in the preseason hype, but I think they probably end up a top 20 team based purely on talent. I would say that win on Saturday was as impressive as you're going to get, because I just haven't seen Ohio State win a ball. When's the last time the Nebraska game last year was close, and that was not a real high scoring game either. What was the final of that one?
26-17.
Yeah, so and they've proven they can win fairly low-scoring games. But I do believe that there's just way too much talent, way too much speed, athleticism on that offense that it's going to be rare that they are held to 21 points.
I am so tempted to continue this Iowa conversation, but we will, of course, slice it up on Tuesday.
Yeah, you're just real quick. Your little Iowa segment you posted yesterday is done pretty well over on the Iowa channel. I think Iowa fans are, they're frustrated, and I've said it to a bunch of people today that, in past seasons when Iowa would have a performance like this and maybe lose, maybe win, there are fans that would just check out and just throw in the towel, Mark. But the response that we've gotten has proven that they're not doing that, and it makes sense that they're not doing that because this was week 1 and they have waited 8 months. And I think it's really hard for people to accept. So fans are going to stay locked in for a while, but man alive, if they go into Kinnick this weekend and lose at home to Iowa State, a team that is perceived to be rebuilding, they lose that game at home. Goodness gracious. It's going to be interesting. I don't know. I wonder how bad it can get, because as you know, September is a cakewalk compared to what Iowa has coming down the line in October and November.
Corey, did you catch the call from Chris, our buddy Chris from Colorado?
I don't believe so.
Okay. That would have been nice for you to hear.
Okay.
Chris
I'll go back.
throwing up his hands as to say what was wrong with what Iowa did on Saturday. I didn't see anything wrong with that.
Who is this that said that?
Chris.
Is this like BYU Chris?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Well, he obviously, listen, one of two things. Obviously, either he did not watch the game, or he watched the game on some very, very serious and strong narcotics, because I don't know what was worse, the Iowa offense or my internet issue. I actually missed part of the third quarter because all of a sudden the internet crapped out on me, and I came back on, and Iowa had scored 2 points via a Jack Campbell safety, and
missed a safety.
so and they of course they promptly followed that up with another safety, and
I immediately couldn't wait to look at that box score and look at the highlights reel. I watched about 18 to 20 minutes of highlights, and I've never seen a highlights reel that was loaded with that many punts, which were really good. I'm not knocking it, but of course punts are punts, but that was an integral part of their defense, obviously, as it always is. And then I never saw as many like 3-yard runs that barely got first downs by like half a foot being shown in a highlights package. And then just tons of sacks and yardage lost on tackles for loss by both defenses. That was the highlights package. That was most of it. And then as soon as I went to, okay, they scored a field goal. How'd they do that? Did they put together like a 58-yard drive? No. 3 plays, 5 yards, field goal. That was the field goal drive. That was the scoring drive. 5 yards.
and let's remember this. You know, you and I have been touting this for months, and we've had so many people, some people who are all in on it. I think most people were in on it, but you have people who have been ripping us, Mark, for being on the transfer portal quarterback thing. And like for so long, this segment of the Iowa fan base has said how stupid of an idea it is. Why would you bring in a guy who's, already quote unquote quit on his team and coming in here that's not going to be able to learn the offense in time. And, you're probably going to lose guys on your roster because you're mixing things up, and that's not Kirk's way. And why would any quarterback want to come here? It's just funny when now in hindsight, and it's one game in, I get it. And the defense looked spectacular. You mentioned special teams. I think the defense, by the way, I know it's South Dakota State, but that was supposed to be their strength. They had a guy who was the offensive player of the year as a freshman at South Dakota State at quarterback. They have a future NFLer at running back, and a guy who played a little bit of the game, got hurt at tight end, who's a future pro. But I just think it's funny watching teams like LSU and Jaden Daniels. I watch teams like Nebraska with Casey Thompson. I get Nebraska as a train wreck, but just looking at their individual performances, looking at Connor Bazelak's performance against Illinois, like how are all these transfer portal quarterbacks, Mark, able to transfer and learn an offense within 4 or 5 months, and they're putting up numbers that Iowa fans can only dream of? How is that possible? Can you explain it to me? How? It's either one of two things. Either we just don't know what we're talking about when we make these claims, A, which is probably more of the case. And I think B, if the offense really is that complicated, then turn over every table in that quarterback room and the offensive coaching staff's offices, because that is ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous that the reason you don't even entertain a quarterback, and this is what fans are saying, it's not what the coaches are saying, but so they're not going to be able to learn an offense in time. Give me a break.
Well, both of us know from watching football for years and years and years, and specifically watching the Iowa offense, we know that the Iowa offense is not that complicated from a play calling standpoint. It's not a sophisticated offense. No. I'm not saying it's a dumbed down, simplified offense. I'm just saying it's a run of the mill offense, unless the terminology and all of that portion that we don't know, we don't hear, is that complicated. And if that's the problem, then that is a problem.
There, what I always hear, and I'm no offensive guru, but and of course, a good guy who is Coach Don Patterson. He's an offensive guru, but Iowa asks a lot of its quarterbacks pre-snap, and they put more on the quarterback's shoulders than maybe your typical offense does. Yeah, the offense itself is not real complicated, but the quarterback's responsible for more. I understand that. But again, if that's holding us back from making what would be a wholesale and possibly exponentially a meaningful change, then why would you not make that change? Might it be because you have an offensive coordinator that's not capable of shouldering the load that you normally place on your quarterback? Could that be it, Mark?
Yeah, it could be. I haven't really come up with that one myself, but yeah. All right, Corey.
Mark, we'll look forward to tomorrow at 4:30 p.m. and we'll get Cyhawk Week going with a bang.
Folks, we've got about 85 to 90 viewers right now, so we could add that many to our Iowa live show tomorrow. If you love college football, even if you're not an Iowa fan, join us Tuesday, 4:30 Central on the Iowa channel with Corey, myself, taking your comments and questions. All right, Corey, thanks so much. And everybody else, check out our Clemson channel after the game. Some of you are watching on the Clemson channel. For those of you who are in the main channel, we'll be live with post-game after the Clemson-Georgia Tech final on the Clemson channel.